And we are live. What's good, people? It's your man, DL Saint. Welcome to the DL Saint I Really Want to Know podcast. Y'all can tell, man, I'm excited about this one, man. Y'all know what I'm doing. Let me check the audio real quick just to make sure the audio is good. Audio is good. Listen, y'all. Y'all know I'm happy. Uncle Saint's always out and about. I'm always talking about my comedy history. I'm a professional stand-up comedian. And I'm always talking about my origin story, doing it. The guy we got today was in the trenches before I got in the trenches. I mean, he was the dude. He had that comedic stare back in the day when we were out there living that life, doing that thing. He kept doing it. I was an air traffic controller. He kept doing it. And I was able to get him on the show. Y'all just don't understand how happy I am to have my brother Jon Huck up on this journey. I got to give him a clap for that. Sister Candace in the house. Good morning, Sister Candace. What's up? Welcome. Thank you so much for coming through. So without further ado, let's bring him up so y'all can all see him. The man, the myth, the legend himself. Here he is, y'all. This is Jon Huck, bro. How are you doing, man? I got an extra sound effect for you, man, that I use for all my special people. There it is. There it is.
That makes me feel special, for sure, dude.
You should feel special, man. You should. Boy, what's going on, brother Jon, man?
Not much, dude. Not much. Good to see you, dude.
Good to see you, man. Thank you so much for doing this, bro. You know I'm in Florida, as you can tell from the the 2 Amendment stuff behind me. You know what I mean? When in Rome, bro. It's like
you have to fit in. You have to fit in.
You gotta fit in.
Don't be different. They don't like that.
Bro, it's the weirdest thing. You come out here, you go get a driver's license, they give you one of those. It's so cool, man. I love it.
Florida.
Yes, Florida, bro. So, do me a favor, man. I know who you are, man. We've been around for a long time, but can you tell everybody who you are and let's do this the proper way, because I always forget to do that, and people be like, I didn't know where he's from. All right, I'll let him tell you.
Well, I'm from Illinois, suburbs of Chicago, but moved out to LA in 1999, very end of 1999. And started doing comedy in 2000, end of 2000, maybe middle of 2000. And I think I met Don, I met you pretty early on. I feel like 2002 or 3. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was right. It was after 9/11. Yep.
It was after 9/11 for sure, because I was working in production. When I got out to LA, I started doing a lot of production work, and that's kind of how I was like, I want to be on the stage, I want to tell the jokes. And but yeah, so I'm trying to think, was it Jimmy's? It wasn't the first show you ran, but you had a couple of shows.
Yeah, me and Prather was running a show out.
Prather, that's right, dude. I love that.
We started the exact same time, bro. We were doing open mic at the store. Remember they used to do it. It was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday back in the day. Remember you had the 3 nights of the potluck. We met back then, and so I would see him around. That's when Dublin's was popping. That's when
dude, Dublin's was bigger. Dublin's was better than any of the comedy clubs that were functioning at the time. Do you know what I mean?
Even now,
I'm serious. Between the Comedy Store, the Improv, and the Laugh Factory, Dublin's was where everyone wanted to be on a Tuesday night.
Yes,
the whole fucking city was there, dude. It was, those shows were epic. I mean, that was where that's the first time I saw Dane Cook, dominate an audience.
See, the rest of the world don't know that. How big Dane Cook was before mainstream America knew who Dane Cook was.
Dude, people would call me and go, Dane Cook is at XS or Essex or whatever that place was called. And I would get in my car and drive down there and fucking climb into the back of the room to watch him do an hour.
Destroy.
And people cry. I mean, people were weeping. Like Dublin's was, the first time I ever did that show, Jay Davis put me on, because Ahmed was I worked with Ahmed on Punk'd, and then after Punk'd, he was like, "Oh, dude, you're a comic?" Because he saw me at the store hanging out, and I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, dude, have you ever done Dublin's?" I go, "No, dude, I really want to though." And he's like, "Oh, dude, I'll talk to Jay," and literally was my in. But Jay was like, "Well, I don't know you, so I'm gonna put you on at the end of." They did a little kind of beginner show.
Yeah, that new faces kind of thing, whatever he did once a month.
And I was like, whatever you got, man. But by the time you went on in that slot, people were already in the room for the show right after you. So the room was already packed. So that first set I had, you know, that was like my best 10 minutes. It was just like everything I had, and I gave it. And Jay Davis was like, okay, dude, yeah, man, let me know. Here, give me your info. Like, you can come back and we'll do this again. And I only did Dublin's probably like 3 or 4 times, but like those times were, I mean, I remember looking out and being like, oh, that's Mila Kunis. That's, you know, like, you're like on stage going, what is all these fucking people doing here? And then they were there to fucking laugh, dude, because that show was stacked with comedy. Like, it was so funny.
Stacked. Like, that's Mila Kunis. Okay, that's Bill Maher over there. Okay, that's, you know what I mean?
Hanging out, dude.
It was the spot. People don't understand when Jay-Z was rapping about bubbling at Dublin's, he's talking about that because the party popped off right after, as soon as the show was over.
Oh, yeah. It was like, it was just a dance club after that, right? It was basically like, because I never hung out. As soon as that last year was like good night, I was like out the door. You know what I mean? I was like, no, I can't hang out here.
Stayed.
Everyone was too good looking. It was like, just all that's kind of was like a misleading, like, oh, comedy is for hot people. Like, no, dude, it's not. That's not how it works in the rest
comedy
of the
world.
Comedy
is for misfits. The best comics are Look at Sam Tripp. I love Sam Tripoli to death. Dude. One of the best comics I've ever seen. Like, because back to Dublin's, right? I saw Ralphie. I saw the first 2 seasons
of Last Comic Standing
there before that was even. I want to say the people who came up with that concept were probably in Dublin's.
That would not shock me even a little bit. Like, hey, these are some of the funniest comics we've ever seen. Because at the time it was to throw them in a house and let them live. It was like a real world for comics that first season. You know, it didn't really become about the comedy until kind of later on,
way later on, and that was a shame too because they had Tammy.
The comics were great. Yeah, the people they had on there. Bonnie McFarlane was on that show. She was, I mean, she cracks me up. Like, there's so many.
Alonzo Bowden,
dude.
Ralphie May.
I feel like, but Alonzo and Ralphie, like, without Last Comic, we would still know Alonzo Bowden and Ralphie May. Like, those guys didn't need any of that.
Nah, they were gonna blow up anyway.
They were chosen because they were already doing what was gonna blow them up. You know what I mean? And people saw that.
And then Miyagi's, you remember Miyagi's was also
right across the street, dude.
Right across the street, bro. They had a Miyagi's was a sushi joint, for those who don't know about this era in California on Sunset Strip. This is when Sunset Strip was still the thing. Now you're gonna need that thing that I got over my shoulder with you if you're on Sunset Strip. Well, but back then, it was
Miyagi's though, dude. Miyagi's was like, you were on a stage. And then there was like a bridge. You were like in an Asian garden. So then there was like a bridge with like a remote, like a creek or a brook kind of running through, and you were just separated from the audience so far back that the last time I did that place, I remember I did this twice. I was kind of cocky, and I went there, and I had done Dublin's, and I had done some spots around town, and I was feeling very good about my comedy. And when I got to Miyagi's, Jay Davis was like, hey, do you want to go on after Dane? Because no one wants to go on after Dane Cook. And I was like, and I looked at Dane, and I kind of looked at Jay, and I go, yeah, man, whenever you want me to go on, dude, I'll go on. I don't give a shit. You know, kind of like, I'm not afraid of going on after Dane. Right. I think I can.
Because you're a Comedy Store comic, bro. I ain't never scared. We're Comedy Store comics.
I'm not really a Comedy Store comic. Like, I'm not even past there. I don't feel the love from that place very often. So
none of us do.
But I was confident. I was like, oh yeah. I mean, Dane Cook does, because other comics I knew were like, I'm not going on it. Oh, fuck that. And I was like, dude, come on, man. Let's just don't be a wuss about it. And man, I don't know. Those were probably some of the worst sets I've ever had. Just people not listening, not caring. Like, the show, it was like if you went to see a band and that band played and then they ended, and then as you were walking out, some guy from the road crew came out and tried to play acoustic guitar on stage. And you were like, what? I'm not staying for this. Who is this guy? And so people were like leaving. I mean, it wasn't, besides Moondoggies, which I've done twice with Sam Tripoli, which is a college bar in San Diego, which was literally people just yelling and partying, and you in a corner going, you guys like ketchup, or like, no one listened to you. Like, I remember the last time I drove back from that gig with Sam, he was like, I don't know why I keep doing this show. I go, I don't either, but I mean, but he always, in my opinion, did well, because Sam, like you said, he was the first guy again, when I was cocky, I had done some open mics. I had done Goldfingers. Remember Goldfingers?
Yes,
Dude.
yes, yes.
So I was going in there and I was getting chuckles to 5 people from 5 people. And I was like, I'd go in there weekly. And then I go in there one night and they're like, hey, the first time anyone ever said, we're going to bump you to me. They were like, hey, we're going to bump, because I saw the lineup and they're like, we're going to bump you for Sam Tripoli. And I was like, oh, and I knew I was familiar with the terminology and everything. So I was like, but again, cocky in my head, I go, yeah, I mean, in my head, I had already dominated that room, getting 6 laughs from, 3 people or whatever. So I was like, whatever, whoever you want to put up the ghost of Richard Pryor. I ain't scared of shit, And Sam went up there in a room full of 6 people. And dude, I was with a friend of mine who's not a comic, but me, him, and the other people in that room crying. We were laughing so hard. Like, I questioned everything about, I was like, maybe I am not a comedian. Like I was laughing so hard. When I got up there, the only laughs I could get were making fun of Sam for being a good comic. I would be like, I'd be tanking. I go, oh, I'm Sam Tripoli. I got 6 minutes of hilarious jokes. And then I would get a laugh. Like, you're never going to be as funny as that. And I'm like, no shit, And then after that set, I walked up to him. He was just sitting on a stool at the end of the bar. And I was like, hey man, how long have you been doing stand-up? And he said, like 5 years or something like that. And in my head, I was like, 5 years? Who has that kind of fucking time? Right. 5 years. You're in this bar after 5 years. Like, it was beyond how, if this dude was the funniest dude I have ever seen on a stage up to that point in my life live, and he's not bigger than that 5-6 years in, I was like, what am I doing? Like, but of course, 23 years later, I'm still like, hey, I got a commercial audition and I'm going to do a spot around town. And then it's the same.
It's the same, but it isn't, because you've turned this into a career, my brother. Like, I mean, I was doing it with the net. I was working with the net as a stand-up comedian, right? So I was an air traffic controller. I'm retired now, but I was an air traffic controller. So it was, you remember when we talked about this, and it just, people were shocked. Like, what? Like, yeah, and
it's like, because when you're going around and you're doing comedy around town, you're meeting comics, most of them are like, hey, dude, do you have money? I need to get a hot dog. This will be the first thing I've eaten all day. And you're like, I have a job. Not only do I have a job, it's a super adult job. Like, that's not like I manage a fucking Subway or I manage, and not that these are bad jobs, but they're jobs that like I could do. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are jobs that I would, when you're like air traffic controller, I'm like, dude, people's lives are in your hand. Like, I tell fart jokes, man. I fucking, right. You know what I mean? The only lives that are in my hand are my own, dude. And it's whenever I decide to get fucking raunchy on stage or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like,
I do, because people will ask me about that. I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm at work and I'm keeping airplanes from flying into shit, and then I'll take a break and I'm working on a dick joke. Like, oh man, I just can work this dick joke out. I got 15 minutes of my break and then I got to go back up and save lives.
Did you ever try to like run your material? I mean, I imagine if you could make a break room full of air traffic controllers laugh, because it's probably a serious group of people, or are they all cowboys and like cokeheads and crazies?
They are really close to the latter. They are really close to like the comedian, where because of what we do, people handle it differently. I came from a world where I was dealing with life and death in the streets as a broke guy. You know what I mean? Like, dealing with that. Because we on you guys' podcast, man, we were on there, we were talking about that, growing up in the streets, going to the military, doing all that stuff.
Cincinnati, right? Like,
yes.
Like,
yeah, doing all that stuff. And then when I got into it, I knew how serious it was. But it wasn't the first time I was dealing with that level of seriousness. But whereas the people I'm working with, that's the first time I've ever done it. And, and unfortunately, there's some controllers who see some bad things, like things happen at work, and they just can't hack it. Like, that's it. They're done. They're done. Me, it's like, it hurts, but it's like, yeah, I've lost people before. So long as I'm not the one who was talking to the aircraft, I'm good. I can sit there and watch it like, that's terrible, but I can get the job done. I can focus. But they didn't have that experience to draw on. And that's why I needed comedy, because I was so serious at work. I needed that release more than anything. Some people would drink. Some people would womanize. Some people would go out and do dudes. Like, the women were so alpha. The guys were trying to be alpha. And everyone's trying to be all hardcore and make the dark humor at work. Most of them didn't know I was doing stand-up. Only I was going to say,
did you hide it, or were you worried that they would be like, let's go see Don?
Yes, I mean, that was a thing. And I only told, in the beginning, I only told 2 people I work with. And for years, they were the only people who knew. I remember the first time I pulled a number for Potluck, because it took like a month and a half just to get a slot, right? So I pulled a number. I'm like, great. I told one of my buddy at work, like, hey, man, I finally got a number. He knew what I was doing. He was like, good luck, break a leg, all this stuff. I'm like, all right. So I did it. Ari Shaffir was hosting that night. Bro, right off rip, you already know, like, okay, I know that this is going to end. Like, Ari was there, shit. You know what I mean? But Ari was hosting. He was nice that night. He was, for whatever reason, he was just really nice. I got up and a bus full of tourists had just walked in from, like, I don't know, the Midwest somewhere, right?
Who knows? Yeah.
Just walked in, and I'm doing the work. Come on, bro. Like, you think back on your open mic material.
It's all pooping and humping and beating off, and just like, I was masturbating, and then I took a dump, and then I looked at my dump, and I masturbated on it. I'm a masturbating dump taker. And you're like, yeah.
You're expecting the crowd to just go, oh.
No. You're like, has anyone ever talked about their dumps before up here? I mean, give me a break.
Give me a break. So, bro.
I'm killing it.
Yeah, like Dana's never talked about that. But anyway, like
we're talking about, Eddie Murphy even says, he goes, my whole act when I was 15 was about taking a shit because that's all I'd done at that point in my life. Like,
exactly. So I did my little 3 minutes of the hackiest material or whatever, and which was an eternity back then. 3 minutes. Wow. You know what I mean? I ran out of material. Yes.
You were just
waiting.
Oh my God.
Waiting for that humming blue light to go on because everything that was back. Yeah, just waiting for that.
Thank God.
I ran out of material, bro. Like I did my 3 minutes that I had timed. It was
you
over.
Did it in a minute and a half. You're like, I got nothing.
Like the first time you get something, bro. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go forever. Done. You know what I mean? Done. So I'm doing whatever. I'm saying whatever. Yeah, bro, it was crazy. But I got lucky. That crowd walked in for whatever. They were just happy tourists. Standing ovation. First time I ever went up, standing ovation.
Oh, that's nice, dude.
Bro,
they were just pumped to be there.
They were just pumped to be
they
there. Ari brought me back
none
up.
Of them spoke English. They were like,
yeah, it's Armenian people. Yeah, you're funny, buddy. You're funny. You know what I mean? So it was like, damn, that was my first experience. The next night, because I drew two slots. The next night, I bring in my friend. It's this beautiful Latina. She comes out.
Because you felt good. You felt what had happened the night before. You're like, oh, maybe I'm Don Lewis, the natural comedian.
Yes. I was the man. I was like, look out.
That's the beginner. That's how they get you. That is how it's like a drug. That's how it's like the first one's free.
I was going to say first hit's free, baby.
Now you got to work for it. And you're going to want that feeling of that first free one.
Bro,
go ahead. I want to hear what happened when you brought in this beautiful woman.
She's in the back. There's no one there. It's all the comics are in the back waiting because they knew what time it was. They knew. Like, oh, okay, yeah, you the man. Yeah, the corner was packed, right? All open micers I've been rocking with.
This is back when the store was like dark and like rude.
Oh, it was like hell for comics, bro. It was like Fight Club, bro. It was one of those you can't even see the audience. You know what it was.
Funny though, dude. It was funny.
Yes,
those were funny times.
So I'm going up there. I got my swagger, man. I go up there, I take the mic or whatever. I'm doing the same bit. It's like 3 sisters, 3 black women. That was it. And then it was the comics in the back, and it was my friend. I go up there, man. I try to run a bit, and you could just hear the sisters like, this ain't, this ain't it. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, I got a standing ovation just yesterday.
Yeah, the same jokes. They worked on these people who had no idea.
Bro. I felt this big. Now I'm like, how am I gonna I gotta, this is the beginning of my night with this beautiful woman. Of course, nothing happened, right? It was a wrap. She felt sorry for me. There kind of thing. You know, like I thought I was gonna hit.
Dude.
No Foxy Brown for me.
Dude, I went, my mom was like, what are you doing out now? Because I moved out to LA with no real plan. And then finally I was like, my mom talked me into, she's like, you like telling jokes. Why don't you try to go on stage? I'm like, what are you, insane? And then I looked at some like ads in the back of LA Weekly and like, oh, I can do an open mic. So I took 2 buses to get to the Ha Ha Cafe from Silver Lake.
Echo you went to North Hollywood, and that was bad.
North Hollywood. And I get in there, and I go up, and there was an improv troupe that had been on earlier that had been rehearsing. And they were sitting in the back, and then there was some comics, and then I want to say a couple of guys who were probably homeless, just kind of in there hanging out, staying warm, whatever. And I did 3 or 4 minutes, and about 1 minute in, like you, I was like, well, what am I gonna? Because everything I'd written that day was like, I wrote it at my temp job, and I was like, okay, it's about pooping at work, and it's about like, and I had all this, and then I look like Chris Elliott, and and I had all these little tidbits, and the Chris Elliott thing got a laugh, and then I like, pulled my notebook out because I forgot what I was going to talk about, and I opened the notebook, and the first thing I see are the bus directions I had written down. This is before cell phones and whatever, so I'd written down the bus directions with where to transfer, when to get off, and I go, ooh, directions from the number 2 in Silver Lake to North Hollywood. And for whatever reason, that got a laugh. I read the directions, that got a laugh, and then did some other nonsense and got off stage. This guy comes up to me afterwards, he's from the improv group. He goes, hey man, how long have you been doing stand-up? And I go, that was my first time on stage. And he goes, dude, you're a natural, bro. That was really good. And I was like, and you know, it's just kind of like your man brain. You're like, this guy could be a arsonist or a rapist or a guy. I don't know this man from a hole in the wall, but he just said, I'm a natural. So he knows what he's talking about, right? I mean, I must not. So
he's an expert, this guy.
Yeah. So just like you, I was like, yeah, I'm good. So then I do a couple of more open mics at the Ha Ha. And then Jack says, do you want to come and do a Saturday night show? And I was like, I'm your guy. And then this is naive, so naive. He goes, can you bring anybody out to the show? And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, he just wants to know if I'm like a draw, if people like me or whatever. So I'm like, I'm sure people will come out to see me. So then I kind of panic and I invite everyone I work with. Production. I worked on Temptation Island. I worked on a couple of other shows. I've worked in the U.S. County Arts Festival in Aspen. I invite 40 fucking people, Don, and bro, all 40 of them show up.
Oh, bro.
On the way there, I'm getting kind of like uncomfortable.
Oh, no.
I get out of the car. The marquee at the Ha Ha says Latino Comedy All-Star Night. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I'd never been on like a themed show. This is my first real show. You know what I mean? Like I've never been anything other than an open mic at this point. And at open mics, I have anywhere from 3 to 7 beers. You know what I mean?
Oh,
yes, that was who I was back then. So I go into the Ha Ha and he's like, hey, show's going to start right at 8. We're going to put you on second. You're going to do 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, Jesus. Okay. So I'm going on second. It's 7:45. Show starts at 8. I better pound a couple of beers.
Oh.
So I pound a couple of beers. Then he realizes that the 40 people that are taking up the entire back chunk of the Ha Ha Cafe are there to see me. And if I go on second, they might leave. I don't know that that's what he's thinking. I'm just like, he's like, hey, we're going to push your time a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay, great. And I keep getting moved further and further down the lineup. And I keep drinking. Every time I'm pushed, I have 2 more beers. You know what I mean? So like I go on stage. It's like 11 o'clock at this point. There have been so many comics. I am hammered. He says, have fun out there. There's a scout for Leno in the audience. I go out on stage. They left me up there for 15 minutes.
That's an eternity, people.
After 2 minutes, I was out of material. I had my buddy, he had a small tape recorder, like a mini tape, like a recorder that I had. He was going to record my set. We listened to that back. And the only thing you can hear besides my voice is in between my jokes, my friend going, oh, oh, okay. Like it was, and I kept touching my face. Everyone thought I was coked up. I just said, Chris, I bet you're wondering why Chris Elliott's at Latino Comedy All-Star Night. That got a laugh. And then one lady goes, you're white. And then I go, Mom. And that got a laugh. And then like, that was it. And the rest of it was, I blacked out. It was just a tanking that I've never experienced before or since. And when I walked outside, and I remember I walked outside and have a cigarette immediately. I was like, I should probably kill myself, right? And my buddy walked out and he was like, this is my best friend, the guy I moved to LA with. This dude has been a supporter from day one, but he goes, well, that's over. And I thought he was saying, well, your comedy is over. Like, we're done with this thing, right? We're not trying this again. And I go, I guess, right? I probably shouldn't do that again. And he goes, what? No. I'm saying this is over. You got the worst possible set over with. There is no way as you move forward in comedy that you will ever do that bad again. That is the worst it will ever be. And I was like, and in my head, I was like, one, God, I hope that's true. I can't get worse than that. If it's worse than that, I can't do it. And two, the worst is behind me. Nothing is going to be that bad. Why? What's to say I can't just go keep doing this? Do you know what I mean? And
That's what
literally
kept you going.
And was like, I never once again thought about not doing it again. Does that make sense? Like, I was never.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
I mean, every day I think, oh, I shouldn't do this anymore. But as an idiot, you know what I mean? I'm never going to actually separate myself from it, probably, that I can see right now, you know? But like, I'm always like, well, comedy sucks. I should get out of it. Yeah. And then I'm just like, well, oh, there's the show. I should run over and do a mic. You know, I can't stop doing it. So
I'm the same way. And people don't understand that about comedians. Like the people who got it in their bones will always do it. You have people who are using this as some sort of vessel to get to the next level. Those are the people that just quit. They don't put the work in. They don't want to bomb.
Or they get what they wanted. They're like, you know, I know
Right.
a bunch of comics when I started that those guys came to LA with 7 scripts and 7 minutes. And boom, as soon as the 7 minutes got them in front of a person who could read their scripts, they were gone. They were off writing and acting and doing their thing. And more power to you. I mean, when you look at the wall of the Comedy Store, like Craig T. Nelson, Michael Keaton, like there are guys up there who would hit that stage and then go and audition. And then, you know, Robin Williams obviously had it in his bones because even after he got Mork and Mindy, he was there every night. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's a guy who was a comedian. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
there are people who Seinfeld, right? He's still out there doing it. So there are people that, you know, however much success they get, they're still coming back to that. And I like to think that is who I am in this. I'm not as like rabid about it anymore. Like I'm not like I got to go up every night. Like, but in the beginning, I had to go up all the time. Like I needed it. I had to, because also that's how you become a better comedian.
Yes, I remember. Because I still got that a little. I'm with you in the sense that, like here in Florida, I went to a few open mics. I'm seeing what's going on with the comedians, and I'm looking at them, and this, you know, and I don't take this the wrong way, Florida comics, but this is middle school compared to LA, New York's university, right? Like this ain't it. Like people are it's like a support group. They go like out in LA,
which is important. Those if you're in a smaller market and you're in the comedy scene, you guys need to support each other. Everybody needs to support each other.
Agreed.
Peoria has that. Peoria is a podunk town, and the comics in Peoria support each other. They support the acts that come through. They support the club. They do what they can. You know what I mean? There's a community of people there.
Yeah, in LA, it might be a great night or it might be a night fight. You just don't know. In LA, I imagine New York's the same, and it's you got people out there with no morals. You know, you hear about the people who steal material and all that kind of stuff in the bigger towns. So you wind up in your own little group or your own little class, and y'all move through together. So when I look at Brother John here, it's like, yeah, he's part of my class. I can hit him up, and I know I got a solid comedy to come in and do one of these shows, because I started getting into promoting aspect of comedy. Because so many of the open mics and the smaller shows were like the bringer rooms and stuff like that, like what you went through, that was the norm. And I got tired of that because the people wanted to make money. They didn't want to have good shows. I wanted to have the perfect show.
And so make a little money. Yeah. There's a way to do both. Like if you're working with a venue and you're the promoter, because I agree, what you're saying is like, if I can, I'm promoting a show and I can put 10 comics on, and each one of those comics can bring 10 people, I have 100 people at a show. Now, those 10 comics could be awful, but I don't care, because I'm getting 100 people in the room, and that's what sells drinks, and that's what gets me paid. You were like, that also, we could have these 10 comics be good enough that people would just want to come to see them. And then when you put on 1 or 2 good shows, word of mouth is like, oh, have you been to one of Don's shows? And then people you work with, people you know, people, your family, your friends, it grows. And when you're doing something, I'll say this is a running theme, but when you do anything out of pure love for what you're doing, it's never going to be a failure. It's never, even if some weirdo is like, financially you failed, or this is a failure, it's not a failure. Nothing you can ever do that you really love doing, not unless you're like a murderer or a rapist or something disgusting. But like, I mean, like, you know, take your hobby, make it a thing, make it your life, go crazy. Like,
you're gonna get that satisfaction out of it. Brother Doug's in the house. What's good, bro? I saw you early on, man. I know you're upset you missed your DeSantis show. There's a part 2 tomorrow, bro. There's a part 2. I did use the stuff you sent me, Brother Doug. DeSantis, no.
He's doing your show tomorrow?
Yeah, I got Ron. Yeah, it's cool. He's coming through.
It's the old Larry King. Like, you have the really, it was that Dana Gould joke. He's like, you could tell how important the second guest at Larry King was going to be by how you could tell how unimportant the second guest was going to be by how important the first guest was going to be. Yeah. The night back from the dead, Abraham Lincoln. Later, sherry and lamb chop. Like, it was just like
what the hell?
Dude, Dana Gould cracks me up. That dude's funny.
That's funny, bro. But no, we did a show on the whole migrant flight thing. And that was my brother Doug, who's one of my day one guys, sent me a bunch of information, because whenever I'll say something about what's going on about one side, Brother Doug would say, well, what about the other side? And at first I was thinking I'm like, you sound like you're all conservative. He's like, no, I'll do the same thing to both sides. And he's true. And he sent me a bunch of stuff, and I was like, oh, damn, I didn't know this. So we did the show, and then we're going to do a part 2. For 2 reasons.
And you had Doug on?
Doug is always just right there in the chat. You can see, like, he'll, like right now he's, giving some LOLs. Like I said, a staunch supporter, man. Like, we're a small but mighty group over here. And I try to do what I can. When people have suggestions, like, can you do a show about this? I'm like, sure. Because the whole I really want to know theme, like this DL Saint, I really want to know podcast, and DL Don Lewis Saint that was my nickname in basic training when I went to the Army. I talked about this, I think, on one of the first shows. So I just used DL Saint, and I really want to know. That's why I got you here, bro. There's a couple things I really want to know, and I got my eye on the clock because I run long sometimes, and I know you got things to do. So I don't want to sweat it, bro. Yeah, but I don't want to have people coming looking for me. Like, John was late to the meeting. It was DL's fault.
No, trust me, no one's expecting me anywhere.
That's so funny. So we talked about the comedy, man. I never talked to you about the acting part, ever. Because when I see you, I see comic. Whenever we get together, we talk comedy. And it was, you think about that. We're doing whatever rooms. I remember one of the last times I did stand up in L.A., it was a room you put me on. I forget whose room it was. It was in Van Nuys. On Van Nuys, like a little restaurant in the back. There was a little patio kind of thing. It was a bar.
Whose show was that? Oh, Kenny Thomas, right?
Kenny Thomas, yes. Yeah. Shout out to Kenny Thomas. What's up, Kenny?
Thanks. Kenny also just cut my hair. I'm wearing a hat, which is not a good advertisement, but yeah, Kenny's a great dude. Yeah. You're like, hey, cut my hair. Let me cover it up. Thanks, Kenny. Well, yeah, but that's why I was able to put you on that show, because he's a guy who understands that kind of shit. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, sure, put your friend up. Like, yeah, he was, yeah. Kenny's great. And
he was so gracious in doing that. So that's one of the last times. But we do stuff like that. We show up at the room. We're in our comic minds. I'm not talking about air traffic. You're not talking about acting. So I want to take a moment to talk about acting, man. Like, what got you into that? Because was that the primary motivation coming here, and you fell into comedy, like you said, or was it dual? What was that?
I made the joke when people would be like, because I'm from a small town, and then I went to school in college in a small town, and when I would talk to the people I knew, I'd be like, I'm moving to Los Angeles, and they'd be like, what? Why? What are you doing? And I'd be like, and I was moving with a buddy, and most of the people I would talk to knew my friend, and he had an uncle who is a documentary film director out here. Awesome. And I was like, well, and Tim, my friend Tim, had sort of shown signs of wanting to direct, moving forward. And I go, so I would tell people, like, why are you moving to LA? I go, oh, Tim's going to direct movies and I'm going to be in them. And that was just like a real easy way to go, okay, this guy's an idiot. He's just going to fuck off to LA and try to be an actor, like, whatever. But I didn't know, like, I had done plays in middle school and I loved it. I loved being on stage. I loved the attention. I loved the, playing a part. Like, my first part was in a middle school play. I played an escaped lunatic. My only scene is like I run out in a toga with a fake long beard and I'm screaming about how my parents are Smurfs and like I'm from outer space and whatever. The next year I got the lead in the play. You know what I mean? It was a different play, but I got the lead. And then the next year I had a smaller part again, but it was like, I was like, I kind of like that, but then never did anything. Now, high school was all about being cool, playing guitar, smoking weed, playing football, drinking beers and just fucking around. And then In college, I was like, I think I'm going to be a writer. In fact, I sat down to write. I'm like, I'm never going to ever finish anything that's longer than a fart joke, and then when I got to LA, my friend had said, I think we could get jobs as set decorators. And I was like, what's a set decorator? He's like, it's basically you move furniture around. And I go, oh, fuck, I can move furniture. I can do that. That's great. That's a great way into the entertainment industry. And I couldn't get in. And he took some jobs as a PA, and I started doing temp work.
Oh.
And then he got me a job right before I took a full-time job as an insurance underwriter. My friend called me and goes, would you want to drive a van from LA to Aspen? And then once you get to Aspen, drive comedians around a comedy festival for a week? I go, yeah, I want to do that. So I left that insurance thing and drove a van to Aspen. And that's when I was like, I want to get into comedy. That was like early 2000. And then started doing comedy and never really I didn't know how to get an agent. I didn't know someone actually was Josh Wolf gave me, or not advice, but I was just like, I remember talking to him, and I was probably 5 years in at this point, but I knew Josh and his brother and his cousin, and just from being out here through mutual friends. And we were out one night and I was like, how do you're on the road all the time. You're doing it. Like, how the fuck, when am I going to get I feel like I've plateaued. Like I'm killing it in all the local rooms, but I'm not able to get out into America to do this, And he was like, I'll be honest with you. When you're ready, they'll find you. And I was like, ooh. And at first I was like, oh, fuck off. And then I was like, but after I thought about that for like a while and I sat on it and I was like, you know what? That's a good, get better. Don't worry about when you're going to be found or people are going to be the best you can be. And that way, when they do come to you, you're ready,
Yeah, because they do approach. There's young comics. I tell young people all the time, they will come find. That is a fact right there, bro.
Be undeniable, man. Be as good as you can be. You know what I mean? And be willing to work to get better all the time. And when you're early on in comedy, it's literally on stage as much as you can be on stage. That's the only way you're ever going to get any good, is to find your voice, which takes years. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Years, dude. Mine has changed over the past 3 years. You know what I mean? So it's like, so then months go by, years go by. It's 2006. I am hanging out with Josh's cousin, Gary Wolf, and we are just watching TV at my apartment. It's like 2 a.m. We're hanging out, drinking beers. I have the TV on. He goes, and Gary's an actor. Gary is a musician and an actor, but he'd done some stuff. Gary is Scott Wolf's brother. Scott was in Party of Five. So this is a kind of an acting entertainment family,
Okay.
And I thought Gary was a good actor. I'd seen him do some stuff. I was always impressed by him. And he was like, we were watching a McDonald's commercial was on. He goes, what do you see here on the screen? And I go, and it was a McDonald's commercial. Everyone looks like a freak in a McDonald's commercial. There's no normal looking. You're like, I go a bunch of weirdos, man. And he goes, there's no reason you can't be one of those weirdos. And I was like, huh? And a week later, he got me a meeting with his agency, which was NTA at the time. And I went in with a completely bullshit resume. I had not done anything. I had those middle school plays on my resume as acting work. So I went in there and it said I could do dialects and accents. It said I could do Irish accent, Scottish, and all Southern, all this stuff, right? So the lady, the agent, agrees to have this meeting with me through Gary. She's like, I'll be like, Gary's great. We'll talk to you. And they're a smaller agency, right? So I'm in this meeting and she's like, oh, it's this here. You can do an Irish accent. And I go, yep. And she goes, oh, can you do it?
Let's see it.
And I was like, now? And she just kind of like, she goes, yes, as if this were an audition and you had to do an Irish accent. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. And I don't know if you watch The Simpsons at all.
It's spotty. I mean, I was more of a Family Guy kind of dude.
Well, there's a character on The Simpsons named Ralph Wiggum who likes Lisa, but he's also kind of mentally deranged. And there was an episode where a magical leprechaun kept showing up on his shoulder and telling him to burn the town down. And so I literally quoted that leprechaun and I just went, burn them all, Ralphie. Hey, ta-tee. And that was my Irish accent. And she looked up from the piece of paper and was like, okay. And I was like, oh my God, they're never going to call me. And like 2 days later, they called me up like, yeah, we'll rep you. And then they sent me on I went to like 3 auditions. I book the third thing I go on, right? And this is of the 3 auditions in the waiting room for those auditions. I had heard people talk about how they hadn't worked in 5 years. I had heard
Right.
people, I'm just like, oh, dude, I might be doing this forever before I ever get booked in anything. And then my third audition, I book it. I'm so excited. I'm like, yeah, it's to play humidity in a Lennox heating and air ad. So like everybody in the ad had onesies on. Like I was humidity, just said humidity, and I pitted out, like I sweat through my onesie, and the director thought that was from wardrobe. They're like, "This is genius. This is look at this." I go, "This is all me." He's like, "Disgusting." But like there was Chewy. Remember Chewy from the Chelsea Handler show?
Yes.
He was pollen or something like that. We were in this commercial together. There was a bunch of people. One was hot, one was cold. And then they did a bunch of behind the scenes stuff. But anyway, that was like my first acting gig. And then I did a bunch of commercials. But as I kept doing commercials, I was like, I want to act. Commercials was literally, I had a good look. I had a big red beard. I had longer stringy hair. I was overweight. I was schlubby. I was these things that sell fucking garbage on TV. So
Right.
I was enjoying that. I got naive, got real arrogant for a couple of seconds, like did a Capital One ad and the check started rolling in. And I
I was
remember
going to
looking
ask you about the money. Was the money okay in the beginning?
in the beginning, when I first started getting union ads, it was awesome because Capital One, man, they would run those ads all the time. And
Nationwide.
I was the one saying, "What's in your wallet?" Like I was in
Oh,
so I remember getting like a string of checks and literally thinking like, I don't think I'm ever going to have to actually have a job again. And then
again, the big head thing, right? This is
dude,
this is oh,
exactly. But also like not really comprehending that companies don't run commercials forever. And like McDonald's doesn't run them for more than a week.
and that's
McDonald's
it.
makes so many commercials that it's like, oh, you got a McDonald's ad. That's great. It's great for 5 minutes. And then there's going to be a new ad on and your ad is gone. So it's like, it was fun. I learned a lot being on set. You know what I mean? I learned about being in front of the camera, who's doing what, how to behave, like saw people behave the way I didn't like, saw people behave in what I thought was a respectable and worthwhile way. So I kind of learned a lot, but I'd also already been on set a bunch. So I already knew, as someone behind the camera, I knew what I looked for in an actor: to be on time, to not be a dick, and to know your lines so the crew isn't being held up. So that's kind of what I brought to the table. So like the crews loved me and the directors all liked me that I worked with. And then I asked my agency, I'm like, hey, can you rep me theatrically? And then NTA started sending me out for like TV and movies. And I got a couple of independent movies and then took an acting class. Like I saw myself in these movies and was like, you're
I
going to need
need
to do
work.
better than that, dude. That
Like
is
I need
not
work.
good enough. Like, what
So
is that? And I remember I did a movie. You remember, Tarun Shetty?
Tyrone, I don't know.
He's a super funny guy, really nice guy. He made a movie called Bobby Khan's Ticket to Hollywood. It's on Amazon Prime. I would check it out. It's
All
worthwhile.
right.
But he cast me we were friends, but he cast me in this movie and he wanted me to play his acting teacher. And he had a screening of it. And I had already done this other movie and it was being edited by the director. So I'm at the screening for this Tarun movie and I see myself and I don't like my performance at all. This is before I figured out I probably shouldn't watch my performances, but I watched it and I was like, that sucks. I got in my car after that movie, drove to Playa del Rey, where the director lived, made him show me a rough cut of the movie because I was like, the premiere was coming up in like 2 weeks. My mom was flying out, all this stuff. They were going to be at the Mans for it. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
bro, I'm not telling anybody about this thing if I suck in it. Do you understand? He was bewildered, dude. Because it came out of nowhere. I'd like, our last conversation, I was like, yeah, cool. Let me know when it's done. And then all of a sudden I'm driving to his house at midnight to make him show me a cut in the lobby of this apartment building. And I watched the whole movie on headset and I was like, oh, okay. That wasn't awful. I didn't hate that. And he was like, okay, great. Like, glad I cast you, you raging douchebag. Like he was not pumped, But I was literally like, I felt like I was really bad. But then I've done stuff. Anyway, that's how I got it. The acting thing, that's how it came about. And as soon as I started doing indie movies and TV, and I got on a couple of sitcoms that got canceled, but like I love it, man. It's so fun, dude. I get one line and I'm excited. You know what I mean? Like
Excited.
I just, it's fun. I like going to set. I like being around the crew. I like it, man. And also like TV is fleeting. Like shows come and go. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
If you think about all the shows you watched as a kid and whatever happened to that show, it was on for fucking 5 minutes and it was canceled, you know? So when you're on a show, I don't have any, like my brain isn't like, well, I'm doing important work or whatever. But I do think that even being in one episode of a show that I might not watch, entertain somebody for a quick second. Like one line I say gets a laugh. One thing I say gets a laugh. You know, I enjoyed that show or whatever. And different tastes. People are going to watch different stuff. Like I tend not to watch a lot of modern sitcoms because they're not very good. It's in my opinion. Like they're not what I look for.
I co-sign on that, bro. I co-sign on that 100%.
But then that's why we have the, you know, Schitt's Creek and Ted Lasso rising to the top, because this is what a sitcom can be. And now we're seeing that and we're like, oh, well, we don't need to do this other thing. But that being said, it takes all kinds of people, man. Everybody likes different stuff. And if you can be in one thing that entertains somebody for 5 minutes, lets them forget about their bullshit and or plants a seed or does something that's like anything that you can construe as positive. And then let's say the show's canceled. It doesn't matter. It's like, no one's going to remember you in 100 years anyway. So why worry about it? If I like acting and I'm acting in things that bring people joy, then why not continue to keep that chain of events going as long as I can? Because I really do enjoy acting. I also love stand-up and will never probably ever not do that. But
right. There's a couple of things I wanted to ask you. I wanted to touch on the fact that you said that you don't watch your stuff now, theatrical stuff. For the reason that you stated, like you try not to, and if that's the case, how do you? So you just kind of just give, you just give the benefit of the doubt to the directing team, you know, to the studio that they did a good job casting you, and because you're in it, you gave them what they basically paid you for, or because my question is, how do you self-assess if you don't watch your? Because we listen to our stand-up, we watch ourselves on stand-up all the time.
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, I just said I probably shouldn't watch my stuff. I do like because now what I'm getting not a lot of, but some of is like one line in a sitcom, right? Pop in, say something funny, pop out. And with that, I've seen it because as I'm trying to get the clip from my reel, I have to watch it. So I watch that performance, and those performances to me, I audition in a way that they like the way I deliver the line. And then when they bring me to set, like this last thing I did, it was one line. I had fun with the audition, sent it in, they cast me, and no one ever told me to change how I delivered the line. They gave me alternate reads, they gave me alternate words to say, but they never were like, now do it like this. And actually, could you be a little bit more harsher? They already liked what I did. So I do leave that in the hands of the director. Like for a show like that, those guys have been like, this guy had directed multiple episodes of this particular show. When I did 911 for Fox, that woman, Brianna, had directed multiple episodes of that show and other shows similar to that. So she knew what she was doing. So when I give the performance, that must be, if she's not giving me notes or telling me to change what I'm doing, that must be what she wants, is how I look at it. Yeah.
So you nailed it first time. Boom. And you're a professional, so I have to give you what you want. Not what I think is best, but what you want. Okay.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. It's not about what I think is best. It's not about what I think is funnier if one were, because I've tried that. And that's like, you're not here for that, dude. You're a one-line guy. Say your one line and be gone. You know what I mean? Yes. Be happy you're here. And that's exactly what I do now. I'm just excited to be everywhere I'm at and I like deliver that line as best I can and hope it gets a laugh or like people like see it or understand. And I'm amazed. I've been in stuff that's so quick. I'm like, no one's ever going to know I'm in this. And people are like, dude, I just saw you on SEAL Team. I'm like, what? How?
How?
Had your eyes, toothpicks in your eyes, just staring at the screen? Like I was on there for 3 seconds. Like I wouldn't have seen me. I could have done that in a blackout and then watched that and not know I was in it. Like,
that's great. And you know, congratulations to you, man. We got brother Marcus Snuggle T's in the house. How y'all doing? Snuggle, my favorite troll. Snuggle T is in the house. Snuggle six
Snuggle
six
T, I
eight.
like
Yeah.
that name.
Well, that's the nickname I gave her. It's
Oh.
her handle is Snuggles 66668. I just call her Snuggle T. That's because my favorite troll. And she jumps on, drop the link. You never jump on, so no, I'm not dropping the link. That's what love. That's what love. But no, you always come on asking for the link, and we know you ain't gonna jump on. And brother Mark is my favorite. Devil Dog's in the house. Jon Huck, shout out, salute to you, respect, and respect to you, bro. We always talking about that, man. Like, you know, and I'll say it in Marine, rah, 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 respect. However the hell y'all talk, man. Y'all a different breed. I say that being a paratrooper, as a guy who jumps out of airplanes. Yeah, I know it's something wrong with me too. So
jump out of them, you land them. God, you love airplanes, man.
I could crash land an airplane because a lot of people I work with are pilots as well as air traffic controllers. So I've been in a lot of small planes. So if I was a guy on a plane, let's say the three of us were on a plane, me, you, and another guy or woman, whoever, we got a pilot, and that pilot,
we'll take Doug.
We'll take Doug. And Doug, me, you, and Doug. Doug's the pilot. And something happens to Doug, he becomes incapacitated, he can't fly. I can land that airplane. Yeah. And there's Doug. You know what I mean? He has problems. We need to go, anytime somebody comes up like, hi, my name is Doug, and everybody says, hi, Doug, you know where they've been. It's cool. I'm glad y'all getting the help. But I could land that airplane. I could land it. It wouldn't be flyable. A wing might be bent, but whatever. We'll walk away from that. Yeah. But I've never gone to get my private pilots. I probably won't do it because it takes so much time.
Is that why? I was going to say, is it because of what you've seen where you work, or is it because of the commitment to it?
The commitment. It takes so much time. And then once you get your private, it's like anything else. You start out small and then, okay, I got my private. Now I need to get my instrument. You know, because I can fly in the daytime, which is great. So now I got to get my instrument training done so I can fly in any kind of weather. Now I want to fly bigger airplanes, more engines. So it's called a multi-engine. You got to get that. You know, it goes on and on and on, and you have to stay proficient, and you have to keep these things. So it's not like, oh, I got my license. Like you got your driver's license and you're good until you're 90. Nah, you got to keep going back and getting checked out.
Thank God.
You know what I mean? Yeah, thank God. So yes, that. Brother Doug is having a laugh. Appreciate that. Sister Candace is in here showing love to everybody in the chat. So how do you handle, because I know you're never going to stop doing stand-up and you're never going to stop acting. It's like that's the passion, and I get it. I'm not crazy about acting, but I've had friends come and ask me to play roles, and I'll do it. I'm a shit actor. I ain't going to lie to you. If I'm playing, I could play a gangster, I could play a soldier, I could play an air traffic controller. But if you ask me to play like a trans air traffic control gangster, I can't do it.
Well, here's the thing. Like everything I've ever done in front of a camera, like I used to think acting was like I have to be this different person. And really what it is here's a character. What if this character was you? What would you kind of be like? What would you like who you are now? What are the things that you would bring to this if this character was you? Like if you were this like it's kind of like you don't become someone else. You just take a little bit of piece of yourself and you maybe blow it up a little bit, or you
modify yourself. You just modify yourself.
Okay. Yeah. And that way I don't feel like I'm doing anything too crazy. Like I don't know that I could play what did you say, a trans biker? Like, you know what I mean? It would have to be in a wheelhouse of now. I think as I age, my wheelhouse has gotten bigger. I can do, dumb stoner, or I can do, strict dad, or I can do doctor, or I can do, you know what I mean? Like things I couldn't have done when I was 24, just because of my body type and how I looked and how I sounded and everything probably. But I feel like, they also had like a spark. The pandemic kind of like made self-tapes more prevalent. Like before, a self-tape was like, whenever my agency was like, oh, they want you to self-tape for it, which means they already found the 5 people they want to audition in person. Now to claim they're casting a wide net, they're going to get hundreds of tapes in, never look at them, and then cast these 5 people. So it was always like, I always didn't really try, didn't really care, just turned them in, was like, whatever. And I never booked off a self-tape. And then with the pandemic, everybody went to self-taping. So then I'm like, oh, I can do multiple takes. I can put the best take forward. I can try this 9 different ways and and I started to get really into it. And then I immediately started getting work. I was like, oh, and then I took an acting class online, and then I took some things that, and I worked at it. And then I watched, this is more recent, but, The Offer, about The Godfather and Paramount and Robert Evans and Marlon Brando and Francis Ford Coppola. And that led me to watching The Godfather, which led me to becoming obsessed with Marlon Brando, which led me to starting his catalog from the very beginning. I'm like 25 movies in, and I've watched everything he's done to that point. Like, and
Damn, bro. How many hours is that?
It's a lot. It's a lot because some of those movies are like 3.5 hours long, and they're not all good. Like, what I like about Marlon Brando is after I realized what a tremendous actor he was, because he did The Godfather when he was 47. That's what weirded me out. I'm like, I'm 47. I couldn't have done that. That's crazy. He played a really old man. Like, wow.
He did.
And
I didn't know he was 47. Wow.
Killed it. Ralph
Nailed
Macchio was 27 when he made Karate Kid. Anyway, which means he's like 100 now, and he hasn't aged a goddamn day. It's crazy.
Not a day, bro.
But what was I saying? Oh yeah. So with the Brando thing, I started doing deep dive, watching interviews and stuff, whatever I could find about him online, and his attitude towards acting, like he was so good at the beginning of his career. People loved him because he brought realism. Like before him, he was the first actor to like be real on screen. Everyone else before that was like, "Ha, you're a dame," and it was just like kind of like, "Hey man, I'm out in public every day, and nobody talks like Clark Gable. What is this?"
Right.
Like Brando did Streetcar, and people were like, "Who the?" They sympathize with that character. His character is a piece of shit in that movie. Like, but people were like, "Oh yeah, I know that guy. That guy's kind of me." Like people. He resonated, and no one had ever done that before. And he, acting class, he found it was something he could do. And as he kept getting paid for it and realizing that Hollywood itself was it's like a blown up version of itself. It's such a weird way. I don't know how to describe it, but like
I call them the cool kids. Whenever I talk about Hollywood, I say, "Oh, well, the cool kids. This is what the cool kids are doing."
Well, he saw through all that shit.
Yeah.
And he was like, he accepted his first Academy Award and was like, yeah, and gave a very short speech. But he was like, I don't think acting should be judged or like critiqued like this. It doesn't make any sense. And like, what are we all sitting in a room giving each other awards when we could be like speaking out about, like, he took up causes and he very behind the American Indian. And like,
I was going to say, he had the young woman, the Native American, come and accept.
She came and she came in, declined the Oscar for Marlon Brando.
Ooh,
she showed up to say he don't want this fucking thing because you guys, Hollywood, are misrepresenting Native Americans, and that should probably end.
And he was so powerful they could do nothing about it.
They fucking blackballed him. He didn't get, people hated him, man. No one would work with him. He went through a lot of bullshit. I mean, and some of those movies, he just started taking movies for money because he was like, I could do a movie and then not have to work for a year and a half. So I could go, he bought an island, you know what I mean? He was just like, fuck everybody. And, I'm sure the worst thing that his kids dying before him was probably traumatic. And he being in the public eye like that was not his thing. I know. So like, but anyway, I don't know why I got off on that, except that it reignited my love of like trying to be as real as I can with a character or with somebody. Yeah. And I think the times that I've been cast have been, I give them, even if it's a comical, like, pervert Uber driver, like as real as you can be a pervert Uber driver and still be kind of comical. Like, it's just all, for me, it's just about it being as real as you can. And sometimes you're doing a Nickelodeon thing and it's like all over the top, like bigger, but like for the most part,
because you're a professional, you got to give them what they hired you for. And
also it's fun to do different shit. Like that's the fun thing about acting. Like, yeah, I want to play a mad scientist on a kid's TV show. I want to be a villain in a movie. I want to get shot on Law and Order. These would be fun things to do. My wife just went and saw the movie Tar with I can't think of her name, but it's a brand new movie. Kate Beckinsale.
You got me, Tar. Yeah, I haven't been watching.
But she plays a music conductor, and for this movie, she learned how to conduct an orchestra.
Like the real deal. She's not just doing this; she actually knows what it is.
And as an actor, and that's another thing that Marlon Brando brought, this method acting. Like before Brando, that role, yeah, it would be like some goofy guy trying to conduct an orchestra who doesn't know what he's doing, and it won't matter because nobody really knows how to conduct an orchestra, so who gives a shit? But you learn then the realism that comes through, and you feel like you're watching a documentary and not just a movie. You know what I mean? It's like, and also now she has that weird skill. Like, she, as an actor, you can pick up random, like, learn to bowl. Like, you know, I mean, who knows if Bill Murray bowled before Kingpin? I'm sure he did, but that was, you know, as an example. I just think I think acting, it can be a very interesting and super unique career or
it can be,
or whatever.
especially if you're into it. And Brother Doug says Brando had a wild life outside of theater.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, he had sex with Marilyn Monroe, dude. This dude banged. I mean, and then you saw the stuff that came out. Like, at one point, like, Quincy Jones did that article, that interview. You see that? He was like,
I didn't see that. No.
Oh, dude, Quincy Jones. I don't know. He must have just been like, I don't have that much time left. I'm just going to let it all out, because he did not. It was basically like, Brando. Yeah. Brando fucked a mailbox. He fucked Richard Pryor. He fucked.
Oh.
And then Pryor's family comes out and goes, yeah, we think that he fucked Richard. And it's like,
that's
so
Hollywood,
Brando, but he was like, I'll try whatever. Yeah, let's do it. And I mean, the women that he talks about in his autobiography, you're like, oh, okay.
Right.
And that's what he wants you to know about, not on top of the other stuff he did. I mean, he actually had sex with one of his stalkers. It was like bizarre.
I'm gonna have to read up on this, brother. Now I gotta read up on this, man. I'll be hitting you up to find out what I need to watch first and what I read first. So I'll hit you up on that. I know you had an hour. I know you said it's cool. I just want to let you know we're at an hour. I still have a few more questions. We're more than halfway done. I did want to ask you about how you handle the road, not just as a comic, but as an actor, when you have to, I don't know, go to Montreal or go wherever to play a role, and then, the road and balance that with family life, bro.
Well, the nice thing about the self-tape being so prevalent is that I take a little ring light and a little stand with me when I go do shit, when I do comedy. And if I get an audition, I can record it in a hotel room with somebody reading on a Zoom on the other line. You know what I mean? I can turn in a really good looking self-tape from anywhere in the country. So it doesn't affect, like, I feel like I don't have to stay in town for auditions. I can be out on the road. And then as far as balance, it's really like, my wife also, we don't have any kids. We have a cat now, which is, and
Same
we have
thing.
a kind of, yeah. And we have a neighbor who also has a cat. So she's been cool. And we've been able to leave our cat with her, which has been a real, I don't know what we would have done otherwise, but my wife is also in production, and she's a producer. So she works, she'll do a show on the road. She'll be gone weeks at a time. And, it's just kind of the lifestyle that we have, the balance comes from when we get to do fun stuff. Like if I have shows in Nashville and she gets to come out, or she was working in North Carolina on a show, and I was able to rearrange my schedule to do shows out in North Carolina at that time. So I could visit with her. We could, and we're sort of traveling on someone else's dime and then getting to do fun shit like that on our own. So, yeah, the balance is it might not be balanced. If we weighed everything out, it might be lopsided towards career, but like not in a way that we're like, it's not devastating or anything. You know what I mean? I'm not like, you work all the time. Like it's not, it's like, we do what we can do. And, she works, more than I do, basically. She's very good at what she does. She gets hired. People want to work with her, and she can work from home now. That's another good thing about,
as a producer.
Yeah. She can be in post. She can work from home, and then she has to go out in the field sometimes. You know what I mean? But it's like, again, that's my whole love of all of the entertainment industry, is that no two shows are the same. You know what I mean? You're different crews, different people, different directors, different hours, different plots, different whatever. And then there's always an end product. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. You can only work for a whole season. You know what I mean? A season has to come to an end. You need to wrap up the show. The show has to come to a conclusion. There has to be an end to the movie. Like this is kind of like one of the things I like about it. It's not an endless. I used to do temp work at an insurance company. It was just endless stacks of paper, and me having to file the paper. And then I'd get down to the bottom, like, whew, almost time for lunch. And then here's another stack of paper. And it's like, there is something to be said for that. I could do it. It was fairly mindless, and I didn't mind it, but it was like, I like a different, thing.
Nothing creative about that. The thing about being an air traffic controller, and, I was in the tower, but, the guys who work the radar stuff, it's never the same thing twice.
Oh,
It's the same runways, it's the same configuration, it's the same
yeah,
airspace.
but
It's infinite scenarios. Infinite. It's
because there's
never
different pilots in those planes, there's different passengers on those planes, there's different planes coming in, there's different fucking destinations they're going out to. I mean, everything is, like you said,
so
it's like the same but different, which is
yep, yep. And it's like and we would sit there just like you said, oh, I'm here's another stack of papers. We didn't have to deal with that because like, okay, here's another stack of airplanes, but it was like this is gonna be way different.
now it's another puzzle though. It's like you
Yeah.
got to figure this out right away.
Yeah, it's like holy crap. We call it 3D. It's 3D chess. You know what I mean? Like you have to sit there because it's 3 dimensions. It's not we're
Yeah.
on this plane or that plane. We're on all these different planes, and you know, it's like you said, what state of mind is this pilot in? What was he doing last night? What's going on in his life? You know what I mean? What kind of airplane is he flying today? Is he flying the hot rod or is he flying the Winnebago airplane? You know what I mean? Like it's I know what this is one of the things we would tell the controllers that we're training. We had the on the job training process, right? So they're getting there. You gotta be responsible for this controller and the airplanes. It was horrible. But you know, so you're sitting there, and I would always tell these controllers, I know what the airplane can do. I don't know what the pilot feels like doing. Right? Because if you could be sitting in a Ferrari, you could be sitting in the fastest car ever made. I know what the car can do.
Yeah.
But I don't know what Jon feels like doing right now.
Yeah. I might want to take a left turn and U-turn and go home.
You might feel like doing 150 miles an hour. You might feel like doing 20.
Yeah.
But that's why it was so. It was never the same thing. It kept your mind working, and that helped me creatively. It just, for whatever reason, I would keep my mind sparked, and I would change my thought to comedy or movies or writing, because I do a little writing myself. I'm not at your level by no stretch. But you know, I'm in the game a little bit. You know what I mean? So here's the thing. There was three things I wanted to do, and then you know, let you go. Even though I could talk to you forever, bro. I love this conversation. I wanted to ask you about what's going on in LA, and I'm not talking about Hollywood. I'm talking about Los Angeles, bro. Because when I left, it was bad. But I'm looking at the news now, and I'm talking to folks out there. It seems really bad with, you know, people being robbed, going into stores, taking stuff. You don't want to wear jewelry. You really got to keep your head on the swivel. Is a lot of that just amped up for views, for likes, for clicks, or is that shit really going on? The homeless problem, all that.
Well, the homeless problem is an epidemic. They're not building any low-income housing. They're building expensive apartments and lofts. And those things, in my opinion, are very unnecessary because no one can really afford to live in them anyway. Right. They're overpriced. So we need affordable housing. Some of these people aren't. There is also mental illness that is an issue as well. But some of these people are homeless because the pandemic was not kind. You know what I mean? People lost jobs, people lost money, people lost houses, people lost their lives, you know, like what they had going. So that is a very real thing. The crime, I live in like Larchmont Village, which when we moved here, we were like, oh, this is such a quaint little area. But almost immediately, my Citizen app starts going off about people getting mugged at like on a Wednesday at 8 a.m. on the corner, you know? So I've kind of always been a little bit more hyper aware thanks to that app, because I literally was like, oh, it's mad, you can do whatever. And now I'm like, don't walk to the Astro Burger after 11 o'clock by yourself. You know what I mean? I'm just like,
right.
So I do keep my head on a swivel in the sense that when I take walks, you know, the pandemic, we started to try to walk, but it felt like Night of the Living Dead outside. Like there were so many people and everyone looked like they were contaminated, and it was just no, people wouldn't wear masks. It was just at the very beginning, it was insane. So I bought a treadmill, had it delivered, and was like getting my steps inside. And then I started going hiking. And then that fucking I'd been hiking Griffith Park and doing all that, and then walking in the neighborhood. And the neighborhood now, I'm like, I am constantly aware of what's around me, because I know I'm 6'4", you know what I mean? I'm a tall guy. I look like I could be fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like if you don't know me, you probably don't want to try robbing me because I could be a biter or a lunatic or whatever. It's like, I might be hard to, I'd give you whatever I had and let you walk away and I would put my hands up. But like, I think I'm not as easy looking of a target. So I worry a little bit less, but I do still clock everybody, where everybody is and where I am and where I'm walking and because I've done some stuff where I've just on my own gone off walking and been like, oh yeah, I'm not going to come down this way again. Like I don't care for this. And also just for me is when you get into an area that's like all garbage, when there's just garbage all over the ground, you're like, dude, what? No, I don't want to be in this area. Like,
yeah,
like
you got to think it's no longer just, oh, let's just go out. I'm in a nice neighborhood, because I tell people all the time, like LA is as spread out as LA is. Good neighborhoods are no more than a ricochet away from the hood.
It's really like you're 1 block, 2 block, 3 block. You're like, remember you ever go to Garrett Morris's club down on Spring Street?
No, because I don't like Spring Street.
It was like an abandoned, it was exposed wiring in a coffee shop. I was just like, what are we doing in here? But Spring was this like, had nice little restaurants, had little, everyone was outside walking their dogs, little patches of grass. And if you literally go 1 block south of that, 1 block, dude, it is tent city. And I don't mean that like that's a lot of tents. I mean, that's what they call it. It's a city of tents. People live there. It's extremely homeless.
And we're talking about Skid Row, people. For anyone out there wondering, we are talking about Skid Row.
Now, again, I had a buddy who owned a church down there, high fences. He bought it, turned it into his house, basically. He used to have huge parties, always safe inside of that place. Right outside that fence is Skid Row. Now, I've parked and walked and been around that area. For the most part, it's not violence. Do you know what I mean? It's poverty, it's mental illness, it's drug addiction. But like, I've seen people jog through there, like tiny white women. You know what I mean? Like just random, just like they're not. Most people on Skid Row aren't trying to murder people or rape people. They're just trying to live.
Yeah, trying to survive. They're just trying to survive.
And it's tragic. So that is a fucking problem. You know what I mean? That is a real problem. And the crime is probably increased since the pandemic. I know there is more stories of people walking into stores and just walking out with stuff, which part of me is like, depending on the store, yeah, they'll get it.
It's like because they've been getting it, because they've been getting it, and it's insured. They don't lose.
If there's no look. I'm saying don't go into people's houses if you're gonna don't murder, but if you're gonna rob a bank. Rob a high-end
do it right.
Say
do it right.
Rob a jewelry store. You know what I mean? Like don't hurt anybody.
We're not endorsing this. We're not endorsing this. We're not telling you.
This.
Yes, we're not telling you.
I get people get to the end of their ropes, and it's like instead of taking that anger out on other human beings who are also at the end of their ropes, turn it on the corporations.
Yeah, we're in the same struggle. So y'all gonna come hurt me. Meanwhile, Bezos is building an island and going, and Tesla
going into
Musk,
space.
Yeah, it's going to Mars. You know what I mean? So it's like, come on, man.
Space. Thank you, Amazon people. You made this possible for buying all my shit.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of it because I hate going to stores, man. So, brother Dusto, scam likely. Dusto's in the house. What's good? How you doing, brother? This guy actually, like, just through YouTube, I met him through YouTube and doing some different things. Turns out the brother lives right down the street. Isn't that crazy?
Nice.
Isn't that crazy?
Small world, baby.
Yeah, man, small world. We hung out. And everybody go check out his show Thursday on Black Man Unfiltered Network. The Dusto's Fears 30-minute show, man. It is hilarious. It is just all things troll, and he brings it to this space for 30 minutes, man. And it's so funny. This is a guy who's never written anything. He's never done anything comedically. He was asking me a lot of questions about stand-up. He was asking me about improv. I'm not an improv guy. Have you ever been an improv guy?
I've done some improv. Yeah, I took a Second City class and then was in a couple improv troupes. Yeah,
all right.
I don't mind improv when it's good. Wow,
can't beat it. But get into that good stuff. Get into the good improv is rare.
9% of the time.
Yes, it's very rare.
Really,
I can only get so many. I'm a crazy banana. Like, come on, man. I ain't got time for this, bro.
There's a lot of, you need to watch some seasoned people do it, I think.
Yes.
There's a learning curve. And there's also, I've seen very bad improv.
Yeah,
but
I can't.
I've also seen very good improv. So
yeah, I'm a stand-up guy, and I've seen some horrible stand-up, and I've seen some very good stand-up. So it's the same thing, but they're different. You know what I mean? Like they're different. But people ask me all the time, like, do you do it? Do you're improv guy? I'm like, I am not. Well, will you ever do it? I will not. But that's just me. But Jon over here, who is an amazing stand-up comedian,
I'll do anything.
We'll do improv. do improv.
I'm just an attention whore. That's all.
Hey, ain't mad at you, man. Sister Candace, At Brother Doug, good afternoon. I'm upset I missed the DeSantis stream too. I didn't get a notification. Hey, y'all, I don't know what's up with them notifications, but I think YouTube has one eye on me. I think I got that eye of Mordor looking at what I'm doing because I talk about a lot of stuff that YouTube doesn't want you to talk about. I talk about a lot of other stuff too, but I talk about the hot button stuff.
I assume that this episode alone will be probably censored greatly because
I'm getting banned. It's fine.
So hot topic with cutting edge comic.
Cutting edge comics. Jon Huck got me banned. That'll be a show. That'll be next week's show. How Jon Huck got me banned, and I'll be bringing him right back because this is how we get down. We're comics. We push boundaries. Brother Doug, for some odd reason, the notifications for predated streams never worked for me. And that was for Candace. And Brother Dusto, I am brand new to improv, but I love it. And you should. I told him he should just keep doing it. I said, hey man,
look, if you love it, that is literally all that matters. But also, you will become better at it because you love it, and you're going to try and you're going to work at it.
And gonna work, and that's what you got to do. Now, this is something I meant to do at the top of the show, but our conversation just got jumped off. I know people want to know what you look like when you're doing your thing, so I pulled this off of your website.
Here's an old fat picture of me.
Yeah, this is when life was good. He was doing them beers, just a couple beers before he goes on, which you weren't by this time. But I just like to throw that out there.
Not at this show for sure.
Not at this show. Yeah. So go over and check out Jon Huck YouTube. And subscribe over there, please, and check it out because he's just now starting to mess with it. This is where I got this. Let's check this out just to hear a little bit of his comedic genius. So here we go.
How is everybody? Wow, that's nice. You seem like a great crowd. Let me leave you with this. I was driving the other day, I saw a bumper sticker. It said, "Give kids hugs, not drugs." My first thought was, yeah, that's a good idea. My immediate follow-up thought was, I'm probably getting the same amount of prison time for doing either one of those things.
Yo, man, I don't want to run the whole set, but I love that bit, man. I love that bit. Probably
I'm actually re-recording. I'm recording 2 albums in December, and one of them is sort of a reworking of old material that I'm going to kind of keep clean for Blue Collar Comedy. It's the Sirius radio channel.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that, man. And
so I'm doing that. And then I'm going to record another album for just me that I like.
And I hate doing that on stand-up, just showing a quick clip. But
hopefully you'll get people interested and they can go watch, because I got longer things. I got a story from Germany about pooping in an alley. I got all kinds of stuff on there.
Your Life of Poop. Hey man, use that for the title of an album.
Life of Poop.
Dude, you can have that. Hey man, this another thing I talked to, and just real quick, I like to touch on this: the creative process. People always ask me about the creative process. I'm not a guy that sits down and just writes jokes. I can't do that. You know Ty Barnett, right?
Yeah. So
Ty Barnett and I would hang out all the time. We'd just go to Hollywood or something, go grab a drink or whatever, hang out. And our conversations would lead to bits. We would just be hanging out and come up with stuff. And that's my process. But there are people who sit down and write. What's your process, bro?
It's a combination, really. That what you just said, like going out with buddies, like I hang out with Eddie Pence, or like if we're just being somewhere with Jen Murphy, just talking about something.
Oh, Jen's
sparks
amazing.
An idea, sparks a thought, And usually when I'm with a comic I like, if I say something and they like it, they're like, "Hey, you should write that down." You know what I mean? It's like, "Oh shit, I didn't really like." I've got a couple of jokes that would have just been fleeting comments had someone next to me not gone, dude, that is funny. And then you go into that topic further and then you write to that topic or whatever. I've also had things where I've sat down and been like, for writing packets, especially if you're trying to submit to like a late night show, they want current jokes. They want monologue jokes that are about what's in the news, literally the day you're writing those jokes. So you have to sit down and figure out jokes to go with headlines and stuff like that. And that is, but for stand-up, for my own personal stand-up, it's usually a comment or something a friend of mine does, or an idea, or it starts as a Twitter joke, or it starts as something online, and then I grow it from there. And a lot of times, sometimes it's just like, your imagination running, and like I'll be in the shower and I'll think something. I'm like, and then if I did this, okay, that's ridiculous. And then you just from I mean, I'm not advocating this, but just, you know, getting high and watching cartoons sometimes, I'm like, hey, I got a thing. And also, it's like Mitch Hedberg is like, my job is to write things down that are funny, or that I think of that are funny. Unless the pen is too far away, then my job is to convince myself that what I thought of wasn't that funny anyway.
Right. But everyone has their different process.
And whatever works, whatever, you know, I mean, I believe, I don't know him personally that well, but Anthony Jeselnik sits down and writes like 15 jokes a day. And of those 15 jokes, I'm sure like he takes them to the Comedy Store, 5 of them make it past the fucking cut. Of those 5, they either get honed, tweaked, dropped, moved, changed, whatever. You know, I imagine that all 15 aren't gold every time, but also maybe they are, because he's a pretty fantastic fucking joke writer.
Yeah, because my thing is, I don't write them down until it is a routine. So I never write anything down until I have done it to the point where I've gotten into 5, 8, 12 minutes.
So you write it down after you've honed it down, and that's how it's supposed to look.
Yep. Then I write it down, and then I can go back to the book and like, oh yeah, I can do the hurricane bit, or oh yeah, I can do.
This is how it goes.
And this is how it goes.
That you do it for reference later on. Do you transcribe off a tape? Do you like listen to what you did, and that's how you hone it down? Or
I won't even transcribe it. I'll just keep playing the tape, because now we just use our phones.
Listen. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm like, oh, what was that one bit? And if I'm like, I'm driving somewhere and I'm in traffic and something goes crazy, because out here in Florida, man, I've never seen so many cars flipped over on their top. Like I've never seen.
It's
that
happening here too. My Citizen app is like flipped over cars every day. I'm like, is the Incredible Hulk running around outside? What is happening?
She-Hulk is mad the ratings are down, so she's just flipping cars.
I mean,
so but my thing, but I'll just listen to it. I'll go on stage. I'll run it. Okay, that didn't work. I'll, like you said, move stuff around. The whole process is probably months long, and then it's like, okay, now I got it into 5 minutes, and I'll take that 5 minutes, and now it works. And then like for the topical stuff, I just crowd work. I don't even worry about topicals. Like I'll just crowd my first 3 minutes of whatever set. It's crowd work. You see Biden's about to, legalize weed, and you just kind of play off of that. And I'm like, okay, I can remember that legalized weed thing worked. And then I'll somebody like Ty, or you'll be there. Hey man, what'd you think of that? And you're like, I got a good tag for you. Blah, 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 because comics love to help. So that's my process.
And then that becomes a joke. That's a solid, I mean, look, man, it works. That's a solid process. And then, like you said, you have the record, you're writing it down the way you want it written. Like I have my jokes written down, like take 1,000 different forms. You know what I mean? Like if I go back to 2015, there's jokes that like have sort of fucking morphed to become something else. And you're like, oh man, because I keep writing it down and changing it and writing it down and changing it.
I just wait till I got it, and then once that 5 minutes, and then I group a bunch of jokes together. So okay, that 5 is now 15, becomes 30, becomes the hour. Yep. You know what I mean? And then I can pick and choose. Hey man, can you do 40? Yeah, I can do 40. And I'm gonna take this out and take that out, and I'm gonna add this, and I'm gonna do some crowd work. Boom, there's the 40, or 15, or 10. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. Brother Ness is in the house. What's good, fam? Like that's similar to coding. LOL. Yeah, I guess everyone has this process, and it is similar to coding. So now we get into the good part, man. Like it's one thing I wanted to ask you about. So who right now, we're talking stand-up comedy, man, who is the number one? Who is killing it? Who is the top gun in your opinion right now? One name.
Dan Cummins.
Dan Cummins. Mine is Bill Burr.
Burr's great. I mean, I feel like that's the guy's got like 55 Netflix specials. He just sold out Red Rocks. It's like, yeah, I mean, look,
because you're like you're in your mind, you're thinking up and coming. I
don't think Dan's up and coming. Dan's up. He's up. He's made it. Yeah. Dan is he's just doing not only, like, to me, Dan is a modern day George Carlin.
Oh, wow.
I really feel like he has that same love of the language. Like he uses words smartly. And then I'd say the thing about Dan that is different than Carlin is that Dan talks about his personal life in depth, but also makes fun of groups of people who are stupid as fuck. You know what I mean? Like he is very good at that. He's very good at pointing out societal dipshittery. I guess. I don't know how else to put it. But at the same time, hilarious, has a good sense of humor about who he is, and is with what he's been able to achieve in comedy and through his podcast, he's also been able to give back to multiple charities and he's, his fan base is like something I've never seen in comedy. It's like it's interesting to hard to explain, but like, I would say Dan Cummins is who I look at as, and I also love Kinane. I think Kyle Kinane is great. I think those two guys, I think what's interesting to me about those two in particular is that through the years, they grow as people, and their act has grown in accordance with who they are now. I feel there's a lot of comics who reach the age of 50 and then they're just like confused old men. Like, I don't understand trans people. Right. I don't understand women. I don't understand babies. It's like, dude, move the fuck on from not understanding. We're beyond that. We've passed the tonight on a very special episode. My son is gay. What do I do? We've moved on to Schitt's Creek, dude, where characters are just, they happen to be gay. That's just who they are. It's not a thing we need to delve into. It's just who they are.
And that's the best way to write it. That's the problem. My problem with Hollywood right now is the whole Holly woke thing. Don't shove it down someone's throat. Brother Doug is here. He's like, I hope comedians won't be impacted too much from the new woke culture. And here's the thing, bro. And this is what I love about comedy. The people who drive comedy are the people you don't see. You have to be in that world 100. And they are doing what comics always have done. They force you to think. They force you to think. So, and I agree with what you're saying 100%. If you're writing a character, like I was writing this, it's like a buddy comedy, right? I'm writing this buddy comedy, typical buddy comedy. And I'm looking at the page and I'm thinking, and I'm like, in this culture, one of my leads has to be a woman. Just has to be. Still a buddy comedy. But I was thinking, and people like, see, that's woke culture getting into you. I'm like, nah, man, I'm telling this stuff.
Also, and maybe that is woke culture getting in here, but also you've just made your script better.
Yes.
Now you have a dynamic that we've fucking seen fucking Tango and Cash. We've seen Lethal Weapon. Dude, when fucking Ridley Scott came to the fucking producer with Alien, he's like, hey, I wrote this movie. The guy's like, well, make the fucking lead character a woman and you got something. Ripley wasn't a woman in the original script. Then they got Sigourney Weaver. And we wouldn't even be talking about that fucking movie if Sigourney Weaver wasn't in it. If it was a dude, if it was fucking even the hottest actor of that day, it would have been okay, there's an alien movie with a bunch of dudes in it and I've seen it and it's okay. Her being in it gave it that twist of fucking, we haven't seen a badass woman like this. She's fucking wailing on aliens. Like,
she's wailing on aliens. And it made a franchise. And it was great.
The thing with me is like can't say what I want to say. Okay, bullshit. Because you can also find out how to say what you want to say without being a piece of shit about it. Does that make sense? Like I want to know whatever when people are like, I can't say what I want to say. What do you want to scream so loud that you can't say? Because freedom of speech is one thing, but there's never been freedom from consequence.
Never.
I can stand on my balcony and scream the N-word all day because I have the right to do that. And it's freedom of speech. But if someone puts a ladder on that balcony, comes up and whaps my fucking lips with a Louisville Slugger, I had that coming to me. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what you get. That's what people hey, you did it.
I can say what I want, but also this guy who doesn't like it can knock me down.
They can knock you down. And it's funny, man.
Consequence.
It reminds me of a show I was doing in LA, and y'all know what time it is.
Everybody sit down, please. It's story time. It's story time.
I was doing my show, The Sphinx, in Sherman Oaks, right? And I'm hosting like I always do. Yes, the hookah joint. Shout out to Aram and all those people, man. My Armenian power folks. Shout out to y'all.
I did that show with Ian Bagg once.
Yeah. Oh man, Ian, the king of crowd work, man. I love the way he gets down, bro. So I'm doing the show, right? It was one of the regular nights. I didn't have any heavy hitters in there, right? I had some pretty good people. I don't even remember the lineup. You know what I mean? I always had a decent show, but I didn't have you. I didn't have Ian. I didn't have Tripoli or Sebastian Maniscalco used to do my shows. Imagine that. Think about that.
That dude kills me.
Hey, man, look, I love him. But here's the thing. So we're doing the show. I'm up there. I'm doing crowd work. I love doing crowd work. I'm messing with everyone that I see. I'm not as good as Ian at crowd work, but I'm okay. And there's like a fat dude, I'm messing with him. There's a super hot chick, I'm messing with her. There's an Armenian dude sitting there with these really big ears, I'm messing with him. And then there's a gay guy, right? It's a young gay dude. So I mess with him, right? And everything was tasteful. I'm roasting folks or whatever, but I'm not saying anything out of pocket. I'm acknowledging, like, bro, you got big ears, you're fat, you're hot, you're gay. I'm saying what I'm saying, people are laughing, whatever. Fast forward to the end of the show, I'm outside, and his friend, female friend, comes up, and she's so getting on. I've told this story before to y'all on the platforms. Y'all probably heard this before. But anyway, she comes up, and she's giving me the business. Giving me the business, bro, because I'm homophobic and all this kind of stuff. And mind you, this was back in, in mid-2000s. Going crazy. As she's doing this, her gay friend walks up, and she stops, and she's kind of waiting, like, oh, you're about to get in now kind of thing.
Good set, man. Really funny.
The guy came up to me. He's like, I want to thank you. I'm like, for what? You see me. You didn't skip over me. You didn't ignore me. I go out to these clubs. I go out to these comedy spots. I do whatever, and people just ignore me. Of course, he's like, of course I'm gay. Hello. And we started laughing. And then he was like, I just want to thank you. And I'm like, bro, I know what it's like to be invisible. I'm a black man in America. I know what it's like for people to see you and not see you. I know what it's like for people to have that disdain towards you and not know you. There's no way I'm going to skip over you, brother. Thank you for coming. I appreciate your support. You know what I mean? We gave the bro hug, and I didn't say nothing to her friend, to the female. I just looked at her, and she walked away in disgust. You know what I mean? Wokeness only works if people allow it to work. In other words, if I'm just being me and I'm being a good person, I'm writing good content, I'm writing good material, I'm writing good stories, I'm telling good stories that include everything that I see in my bubble, ain't nothing wrong with that. I never saw Brokeback Mountain. I probably never will, but I'm glad the movie exists.
Not everything is for everybody anyway.
Exactly. And it's not supposed to be.
No. And that's what you get. That's why I stopped. I used to be like, oh, kid, music. I used to be like an old man in my 20s. Oh, music sucks now. No, you know what? It's not being written for me. Justin Bieber's not even writing songs for 47-year-old fucking red-bearded oafs. Like, it's not who they're aiming their music at. I'm not fine with it.
Same thing. Kodak Black is not writing music for my 52-year-old man sitting in his loft talking to his computer. That music is not for me. You know what I mean? I'm a rock him kind of guy. You know what I mean? Give me some Method Man.
You know who you are.
I know who I am, man. Yes. So the last two things, and thank you so much, bro, for hanging out with me. Last two things. Dude. I brought this up about Bill Burr because Bill Burr is a comedian that I study as a comedian. So one of his, he did this bit, Red Rocks, one of his, like you said, billion Netflix specials. Sorry You Feel That Way. Not Red Rocks, but Sorry You Feel That Way. And I got a clip here. He's talking about the church. I know when I started doing stand-up, people who aren't in the business was like, you never talk about politics, you never talk about the church, you never talk about the family, like inside,
How about you never tell me what I can never talk about?
But they didn't know any better. These are people who were just like, they're not in that world. And
no, they're talking about Thanksgiving dinner, man. They're not talking about comedy.
Thank you. And so when I look at Bill Burr, he masters, to me, he embodies the comic who can talk about anything and never get canceled. Why you don't get canceled? Because it's so damn funny to everybody. To everybody. So this is one of his things when he was talking about the church. So we'll play this real quick clip. Let me hit that button. I need a producer. That's what I need, bro. You know what I mean? Look, I'm the old man. Look here. Do I click here? Okay. What button do I push now? All right. So here we go. This is Bill Burr. Check this out, guys.
I think all of that shit comes from the church. They just fucking brainwash you. No, don't clap. Don't clap. I don't read. Follow someone else. I'm telling you. They brainwash you. Coming to the church, your brain's all empty. They just fill it up like a jelly donut. Brainwash you. Say what we say when we say it. Say it again, then you can go home to your toys. All right, I'll say it. I'll say it again. Now can I go home to my toys?
Fucking brilliant.
But that's also, I mean, you know, he's doing an impression of people he grew up with. I mean, that
Yes.
is straight up. Like, he knows the, like, from Boston, like, we got to go to church on Sunday. Last night, you were hammered on 19 beers. You beat the shit out of somebody. You used 50 racial slurs, and now you got to go to church.
Yeah.
Hey. You know, it's
In
like,
his latest special, didn't he say that about his father? Like his father cursed out the priest, and he comes back next week like nothing happened. Hey, how you doing? But that's what I mean. He's talking about the stuff you're not supposed to talk about.
Yeah, but he. Well, first of all, cancel culture isn't a thing. Nobody's been canceled.
That's true.
Fine.
Yeah, just
tell me
Andrew Tate.
one person who has been canceled and is now not making any. I mean, what, Louis C.K. He's on tour, just won a Grammy. Like fucking Chris D'Elia wasn't canceled. He's on tour. Like these people, like no one was canceled. One guy was like, "Who's been canceled?" Someone said Harvey Weinstein. I said, "No, Harvey Weinstein's a rapist. That's not cancel culture. That's the justice system.
Yeah,
that's the law, dude. You can't rape people. That's not being canceled. That's a fucking committing crimes." It's like, oh, I was canceled. What'd you do? I robbed a bank. No, that's not canceling. You're
doing your time. Yeah, you're doing your time, bro. Like,
but everybody else, there's no, their career took a turn. You know, it didn't go the way they expected or whatever, but they're not canceled. They still have their fan base. They're still making more money than you or I are ever going to see. They're still like, you know, I just, people are like, you know, I did a show at my own college. They're like, oh, you be careful with college students. You get canceled. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, they're not going to like me, maybe, but cancel. I mean, what am I going to end up in the news? Like, I don't know.
And real quick for YouTube, when you start doing your YouTube, instead of saying the R word, you have to say grape, because that's one of the key words that YouTube will come and chop you down for real. They'll stop your stream and stuff like that. Luckily, I'm so small, they're still not doing it. Rogan could get away with it, like the big people could get away with it, but they'll come to the little people like us. And if you say certain words, you'll have a problem with YouTube, and that's one of them. So it's like grape is the term that they use. You'll find all this out when you start doing your YouTube, man. This is like being open micer all over.
But this is like, again, this is why I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I got into this to write and tell jokes, and now I got to be a computer whiz. Like what?
right.
And figure all the lingo, and like I'm old, man. I want to watch baseball and take a nap. Like
that sounds great. I'll watch football and take that same nap. So we'll finish with this. This is the part I really wanted to get into. Top 5 comedy movies, in your opinion, your top 5 comedy movies of all time.
First of all, this is such a loaded question. I mean,
it is. I know it's a tough one.
It's not fair, but here's what I did. And this, you know, would this list be the same tomorrow? No, the top 3 will probably always be the same, but
no particular order either. Just 5.
Well, I'm counting them down.
Okay.
Number 5, I would go with the entire Bill and Ted trilogy.
Okay.
It is the best trilogy ever made.
Whoa.
Hands down. I mean, what are you going to... Star Wars isn't even a trilogy anymore. There's 400 of those movies. So it's like Indiana Jones has 6 movies. Like, I'm talking 3 movies that define a fucking universe. Bill and Ted are those 3 movies. Those Excellent Adventure. What is the second one called? And then the new one, which is Face the Music. What is the second one called? Bogus Journey. Okay. So those 3, I love those movies. I think Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, I think they're great. I think you can watch them with your families, but they're also, you know, Bill and Ted aren't stoners. They're not bad dudes. They're just slightly off. You know what I mean? They're just like, but they're good dudes that mean well. It's like, it's a very entertaining, whatever. So that's my number 5. Number 4, I mean, Fletch, Ace Ventura, Spies Like Us, Caddyshack, Animal House, Black Sheep, Bridesmaids. But I would go with Start the Revolution Without Me, which is a 1970s movie. Gene Wilder and Donald Sutherland, directed by Bud Yorkin, produced by Norman Lear. Norman Lear.
Wow, heavy hitters.
They play the mismatched. They play 2 roles each, Gene Wilder and Donald Sutherland, mismatched Corsican twins. And it's a very funny movie. Saw it when I was very young. Sticks with me to this day. Number 3, Blues Brothers. I went to the same high school as the Belushis, and they shot that movie, part of it in my neighborhood where I grew up. And it was the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater. I was 5 years old, and my parents took me to see Blues Brothers because they blew up a gas station close to my house. And when my dad went and watched, remember my dad walking with his buddies to go watch this thing blow up. They watched it, and when we saw the movie, my dad was like, "What? The gas station didn't blow up in the movie." They cut that scene entirely and then put it into the DVD release 25 years later. It was crazy.
That's when Princess Leia had the flamethrower.
No, yeah, but yes, she had a flamethrower. But when Twiggy comes in and he steals the windshield wipers, then they put them on her car, whatever. So that's the gas station they blew up, and she drives away. But they did something with the gas truck, so it was supposed to be them leaving, and then I think she maybe launched a missile into it or something, and then it blew up. But they ended up putting it in the DVD 25 years later. Anyway, Blues Brothers, and a girl I know was in that movie. She's a dancer on one of the cars in the Ray Charles scene. It's like, wow, there's a lot there. Second favorite movie comedy of all time would be Way Out West. It's Laurel and Hardy, about an hour and 10 minutes, and
I've seen that.
It's their best feature. It was my dad's favorite movie, and it's, to me, I mean, I love just about every Laurel and Hardy movie, but that one in particular is them at the top of their game. And I feel like those guys set the tone for me. I watched Laurel and Hardy as a very young kid early on in life. And when I saw Blues Brothers, it was like Laurel and Hardy. And then my number one favorite movie comedy of all time is Tommy Boy, Chris Farley and David Spade. And
is that when they did the fat guy in a little coat scene?
Yeah. Which is, they started that movie with 60 pages of script, and then they just started doing bits. And that movie was so funny to me and had so much heart, and the acting was so good, and it just showed everybody in the perfect light. Dan Aykroyd was great. Rob Lowe was amazing as a piece of shit in that movie. Like, he gets off the bus, crumples a milk carton, and throws it into a stroller walking. I mean, I love that movie. So those are I would say Bill and Ted, Start to Revolution Without Me, Blues Brothers, Way Out West, Tommy Boy.
All right, because I love doing these because I'm listening to yours and I'm like, oh shit, it made me think of.
That's the problem. Is there's so many. Caddyshack. I mean, there's so many.
There's so many, but you got to do. It's like I got to put them in.
King.
Sorry, King. Yes, Dude. But here's my five. Here's my five. Number 5, Half Baked. I just remember watching Half Baked, and I was half baked while watching it. It was the best thing ever. Dumb and Dumber. Number 4. Just because it was just so stupid. I just, the things that they were doing, those two masters of their craft at that point. You know what I mean? Number 3, Harlem Nights.
Ooh,
Harlem Nights. I had to do it. Get your pinky toe blown.
That's an important movie. That's an important movie.
It had all the greats. It was an important movie because it had all the greats, but they were still greats when they did that. So like Harlem Nights have to be in the top 5. Monty Python's The Holy Grail coming in at number 2. Just the Black Knight scene. As a little kid in the hood doing my hood shit, I couldn't stop laughing at that. And I would make my people watch it. And you got this room full of dudes with all kind of weapons sitting around.
Yeah,
and we're watching we're watching this, and then we'll be out and about, and they're like, it's but a scratch or a flesh wound. And then like the beating the cat at the beginning, like, wow, just beating the cat against the wall, and the guy's like, bring out your dead, but I'm not quite dead. I can't take him like that. You know, that just, Monty Python is the best. He's like, I'm not quite dead. I'm feeling better.
Yeah, I'm feeling better.
I think I'll go for a walk. And the dude just hits him over the head. Dude, the Holy Grail. And number 1, Airplane.
Oh,
I had to go Airplane number 1.
That's a good number 1. That set the tone for a lot of stuff to come too.
For a lot of shit. And I got a bunch of honorable mentions. Blazing Saddles.
Young
Dolomite. Young Frankensteins. Yeah, when his finger was on fire. You got the Human Tornado, Dolomite. That you got, the Jerk. Like, come on, man, the Jerk. Arthur, and then you said the Blues Brothers, and I'm like, you know what? I would like the Blues Brothers. I would have to put in my top 5. Like you said, mine's already changed. They ain't been a day yet. Like the Blues
Brothers was also the first time I ever saw Black Church.
When
they go into, oh my God, I was like 5 years old. I went to a all white people Protestant, hello, and then
say what we say when we say it. That's what
exactly. And then they walk into the James Brown church, and people are dancing and going crazy. And I'm like, well, this isn't real. Like, how can this church can't be fun? Like, they're having way too much. And then someone was like, no, that's how black people go to church. And I was like, why can't I do that?
I want to do that.
What am I doing over here?
People getting the Holy
I
Ghost.
want James Brown to be my minister.
Oh, bro, if some dudes put James Brown to shame in my church, it's like Brother Jenkins, you know what I mean? Brother Pastor Jenkins Dantley, you know what I mean? Just out there making it. It was so entertaining, man. I ain't gonna lie to you about church. And that scene, people was like, oh man, it's not like that. I'm like, bro, maybe
the only time flying up in the air like it's
that's the only
Arsenio
thing.
Hall show or whatever, but like
that's the only thing. That was the only, and that's because we didn't have a trampoline. If we had a trampoline in the church, bro, it would be up there. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Bro, that's it, man. That is great, man. Brother, all the way from South Africa. What's good, fam? I see you. Hold on, let me show you some love. Brother all the way from South Africa. Meet the Parents and Meet the Falkers are always iconic to me, along with piles of parody movies from the 2000s era. And man, this brother's from South Africa. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Meet the Parents. I mean, when I first saw that movie, that killed me, dude.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. I mean, that was on point. You know what I mean? And Brother Doug is saying Farley died way too young. Yes, he did. Coming to America, Harlem Nights, and National Lampoon's Christmas. Oh, that was, yeah. And Family Vacation. Yeah.
I like the first one. I like the first Vacation movie is.
Yes.
And yes, I was going to put Billy Madison on my list because I felt like Sandler kind of like he wins the game, basically. He only does movies with his friends. They're all funny and goofy and nonsensical. There's a formula, all of them, but they're always entertaining. It's just like the guy kind of like mastered the formula and he's like killing it. I
mean, dude, if I had that option, you would be in all my movies. Like I have Prather would be in my movies. You know what I mean? Like all my dudes, all my comedic family folks would be in my movies.
That's what I'm saying. That's the goal. That's like the goal we said. I just want to make movies with my friends.
Right. And it's so true. And if you can do that and get paid for it, Jesus, like Sandler, like, he nailed it. He nailed it.
Grown Ups is essentially 2 movies back to back where they just go on vacation together and then like hang out and make a movie. I mean, I don't think it's scripts to those movies. I have no idea. It's like them just making fun of each other the whole time.
Yeah, it's like Guy Ritchie style. You're sitting around waiting for him to finish the rewrite. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I had the script. Well, I had an idea last night. So Ritchie is just sitting there writing it up. So, which is great. Wedding Crashers, Super Bad. Yeah, it goes on and on and on. And for people out there, whenever I interview folks moving forward, we're gonna have top 5. Like the next top 5, I'm trying to get a friend that I know from YouTube. I call her a friend, just know from YouTube. We've never met in person, just on panels. But she's agreed to come on the show, and we're gonna do. We'll talk about her life as an actress and this, that, and the other sister. But we're gonna also talk about top 5 kick-ass female leads. That's gonna be like the next one. Top, and Aliens is in that conversation.
Dude, it has to be. That set the bar. I mean, not really set the bar. There were like blaxploitation films that were done.
Coffee, what I mean? Like, yep. That was up there.
Women be leads, and I believe it was through one of those movies that they finally started using female stunt women.
I gotta look that up. You would know better than me, but I can believe it.
I'm not 100% sure, but I know they used to just dress up men.
Yep,
to
put them in
do
wigs and
women's
dresses.
Stunts. And if it was like a black woman, they'd bring in a dude, blackface him up, put a wig on him, and push him out of a car or whatever. And I think it was like one of those movies where the lady was like, hey, this woman over here looks just like me. She could do it. She's willing to do it. Let her do it. Because I don't know why, but I feel like the first female stunt woman was black. But I don't know if that's right.
We gotta look that up. Brother Ness is saying Borat. You know what I mean? Look at that. We started something here. Everybody's talking about it, man.
That's the thing, is when I looked into it, I was like, I could make a list of 10,000 of comedies that I love,
That's why I like to do 5, not 10. Let me get a top 10. No, 5. You gotta force them, but it's just always gonna change. But we're gonna do that. I'm gonna do martial arts. I'm gonna do every time I have someone, it's gonna be something. Okay, top 5 this, top 5 that. I can't wait to do top 5 TV series from the 80s.
Ooh,
you know what I mean,
dude?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. I'm gonna keep trying to bring you back. Brother Doug is saying old school. I'm gonna get Jen Murphy on the show. I don't know what that top 5 is gonna be, but I'm definitely gonna have a top 5 for Jen. She's already agreed to do it. I just haven't circled back, because I know everyone's busy and all that, man.
Oh, Jen's great, dude.
Yeah, John, man, thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much. Man. This is one of my favorite shows so far, man. I'm young in this business, but I'm so glad I got an opportunity to get to talk to you, my friend. Man,
always a pleasure, my man.
Always a pleasure. We got to do a part 2, man, because there's so much more we didn't get to talk about.
Let's talk about 80s TV shows. I could talk about that all fucking day.
Oh, okay.
But if you want to do a part 2 of this too, I could talk about myself for a long time too.
We'll do both because we didn't get to talk. Yeah, because you had some physical struggles and stuff like that we didn't get into. You know what I mean?
Well, my cancer?
Yeah, that little thing. Yeah, you had that little thing. We didn't get into and how that affected everything. So we got to do a part 2, man. Give me a few months. I'll circle back and hit you up, man. Maybe I'll come out to LA and bring my gear and we can do it on, you know what I mean?
I think if you get out here, you could borrow the gear from somebody. You don't need to carry it with you.
That is absolutely the facts. It'd be way better than what I got here. You know what I mean? But yeah, because I need to get to LA anyway. Like I said, I'm working on a project. I leave Hollywood only to have Hollywood want to fuck with one of my projects.
That's how it works, buddy.
Man, you talk
That's
about
how
scary.
they pull you back in.
They yank your ass back in, man. You talk about scary because I like the work. I sent it to a friend just for notes. Like, hey man, read this. Let me know because it's a project I was gonna do myself. Like, I'm just gonna make this a small film, bucket list stuff. I want to do a film, and it turns into we need to talk. And I thought something happened. He was like, no, I think I can sell this. Yeah, I think I can sell this. And they're plugged in. He's a cool kid. They're plugged in, and I said, okay. You know what I mean? All right, so now we're into the rewrite. So how long is that gonna last? You know, like, oh, we gotta rewrite this, we gotta rewrite that. Here, more notes. Maybe we'll do an episode on notes, bro.
Maybe we'll do an episode on Doug's top 2,000 comedies.
Because they keep coming in. Everything Chevy Chase and Will Ferrell did. Stripes.
Yeah, Stripes. There should be more Bill Murray in mine too, probably.
Yeah, Stripes. That has to get in there. Spies Like Us, Police Academy. Yeah, Ghostbusters, another iconic film. That's more sci-fi, but I guess it's comedy.
Well, I mean, sci-fi, but it's straight comedy. I mean,
oh man. So yeah, bro. We're done. Thank you so much, man. I know you told me an hour. We've done an hour and 50 minutes. My bad, bro.
All good, dude. All good.
my bad, bro. So final thoughts, bro. Final thoughts.
I don't really have any. I don't know. Try to be a good person. Use every day as a new beginning.
You heard it here first, people. Use every day as a new beginning. If you're going to steal from the corporations.
Rob banks, not people.
Rob banks, not people. Let's bring bank robbery back again. What is it? Make bank robbery.
Make bank robbery great again.
Yeah, do that. Let's do that. Yo, thank you so much. This is Jon Huck. I'm DL Saint. This is the DL Saint I Really Want to Know podcast. Yo, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.